We need to be on the street.
How would they know that they won't be next?
It's not about who's next, it's when.
Is South Sudan being governed, or
We have to understand as South Sudanese is that President Kiir is a dictator.
and what happened to South Sudan if Dr. Machar is convicted?
First, he needs Dr. Machar alive.
And what you think about South Sudan? And
Nobody going to rescue us. We're going to be the one to rescue ourselves.
to start our discussion, President Kiir has fired about 8 finance ministers since 2020, dismissed his presumed successor Benjamin Bolmel after just months in office, and is now prosecuting his coalition partner, Dr. Riek Machar, for treason. This looked less like a governance and more like a permanent purge. So the question is that is South Sudan being governed, or is it simply being managed through fear and patronage? And for those inside the system, how would they know that they won't be next?
That's a very good question, which is ringing in many South Sudanese mind. Is the same question you just asked: is what is happening in South Sudan, and who exactly President Salva Kiir? And I think a lot of us has been hit surprisingly by his character. First, we have to understand as South Sudanese is that President Kiir is a dictator. Dictators are smart, they're crafty, they know whenever to maneuver. So now we're actually seeing Kiir true color, which has not been revealed back even the struggle. He was a quiet officer. He was still a leader, but definitely Salva Kiir is a dictator that many people undermined for many years, including those that are working with them. So now that we're in this phase, we saw Benjamin Bolmel being humiliated. The same thing with Kulkur. You go to Paul Malong, and even some of the internals, elites that we do not see often, they're all being humiliated, and that's what dictators do. They keep fear. Fear help them consolidate power, be able to maneuver around some of their rivals, and let people know that they do have power, and that's what exactly happening in South Sudan today. Definitely, those that are inside right now, they fear. They fear because they know they're next. It's not about who's next; it's when, as we've seen it, and now it's like you get appointed, and you're thinking that Salva Kiir, you're doing something good for him, and that's the problem with dictators. If you're being appointed by a dictator, it often fire back rather than being elected by the people. If you're elected by the people, you're obligated to serve the people. But when you're appointed by a dictator, your survival is to feed his ego and to feed all the stuff that he has planned. And once you fail, you're done. You will never accomplish what he wants because the dictator itself has a long range of maneuvers and strategies. So now everybody in South Sudan is, even Paul Nung right now, the same with Sholton, Balo. All of these guys right now are scared. They don't know what to do. It's like, if I make this move, what will happen? And then if I don't do anything, what's going to happen to me? So it put a lot of people in confusion. And nobody at this moment, they're all praying that I do not get appointed. All of them. It used to be, I want to be the next ministers. They're competing. They're accusing each other. Right now, it's all about, I hope he does not appoint me because I would not survive.
This brings us to the second question. As you know, the Machar trial and civil war risk. So Dr. Machar the trial began in September 2025 this year, and with all the defendants being Nuer, which is his ethnic group. So the last time President Kiir had a fallout with Machar was 2013, which triggered a civil war that killed dozens. So, and regional observers said that we could be heading back there. So if I could ask you directly, is this trial about justice or for the Nasir attack, or is it about eliminating the only last credible alternative to President Kiir? And what happened to South Sudan if Dr. Machar is convicted?
What is happening now is that Kiir is still strategizing how to consolidate power. And if you look into South Sudan governance, it's not about the public welfare or building institutions that will move the country forward. It's about power. Kiir is consolidating power, and he has many drama that's going on. First, he needs Dr. Machar alive, because that's who he used to circle and maneuver around him. Due to Dr. Machar influence on the ground, he does have forces on the ground. Also, Dr. Machar is coming from Nuer, which is a large ethnic group that has hostility towards Safa. And the only thing he needs now is come up with a strategy, which is taking Dr. Machar to trial, letting people know that, look, it don't matter who you are, I don't have sides, but I am building a legal system. Although it's broken, he's trying to build a legal system that will override the hybrid court, because at the end of the day, he does not want to go to hybrid court. Taking Dr. Machar to a court will humiliate him, and it also will send a signal to those that are opposing him. If I can do this to Dr. Machar, who has tremendous power on the ground, who are you to challenge my authority? And this is exactly what's happening. And Kiir, on the side, he's feuding with his loyalists. While the court is going, we have seen so many things happening. Prices are rising. He's using air bombardment against civilians. So now it's all about, you know what? I will show South Sudanese that I am the person that is in charge. And he is singled out a lot of the individuals or even communities. We've seen the bombing in Toy, and that's a retaliation towards Nial Deng Nial that just left the movement. The same thing in Wulang, especially in Doma village. They've been bombing, and that's because of the communal violence that's going on between Ngok Lual Yap and the Wulang County youth. You still have Agulek and the Shulu on the other side. So Kiir is well aware of who is where and who's need to be silenced and who do I need to use. At the moment, this court in Juba, it's a kangaroo court. If you look at the judges, they all thought that Bullmail and President Kiir are on the same page. Little did they know he pulled out and then fired Bullmail. Now the judges are under strict scrutinies, because now President Kiir can fire them or can come after them. So he's going to go consolidate in a way where Dr. Machar might be released because he needs him. Many of his supporters thought that Dr. Machar would be hung within 3 days and the court would be over. That's not it. Kiir is very crafty in what he does. He is one of the rising dictators in Africa, East Africa, I would say. And he's learning from Museveni. These are the tactics that Museveni do use. So the court right now with Dr. Machar, it's all about centralizing his government, seeing who's still loyal, who's not, who do I need to get rid of? And then he's going to proceed to his next step. He's 10 steps ahead of us as South Sudanese. He is well strategized in what he does.
So, and while President Kiir reshuffles his ministers and prosecuting opponents, which we are talking about, and teachers and civil workers haven't been paid in months, so the currency is also collapsing, which means the economy of South Sudan is really degrading. And as you said, fighting is spreading across multiple states. The United Nations also said that South Sudan is a country run by predatory elite engaged in a systematic looting For average South Sudanese citizen watching their country unravel, here's the brutal questions I wanted to ask. Will there ever be a government that stay in place long enough that can make the country stable, that would actually deliver schools, health centers, and peace, most importantly? Or is this a revolving door, the only future of South Sudan?
At the moment, we're at a critical stage as a country and one of the youngest nation in the world. And our economy has already collapsed. The country itself is very divided along ethnic lines. There's no hope in the citizens. As you can see, our neighbors are on the streets. If you look at Tanzania, you look at Kenya, Uganda, all of these citizens are all on the street. But when you look at South Sudan, they're all traumatized. Everyone is silent, and it's because of all the oppression that we've gone through as a nation from the 20 plus years against the North, and now we have one of our own liberators oppressing us. So the people themselves have gone through tremendous suffering. So there's no stability moving forward because the country has no institutions. The Constitution itself is watered down. And even the moment now is very disappointing that President Kiir has nominated Michael McQuaid as the Minister of Justice. And he was, in fact, he was one of the members that were working on the Constitution when it was drafted. But along the way, as we can see, Michael McQuaid was corrupted. He was even serving in the wrong ministry. This is the ministry he should have served. Now he's in a crossroad. Will he do the right thing or not? But when we look at our country, it has shattered. There's nothing holding us together as a nation. The people themselves have seen that allowing Salva to do whatever he wants until he passes away. That's just like the only peaceful way that they look at it. We do have arms group around, but when you look at it, we're under army embargo. So there's not that much they can do on that sense. So we're really in a critical stage, and this has drive out a lot of the international community. There's a way that they see that this country would take tremendous work to renew or to move forward, because all the elites right now, when we speak, they're all clueless of what to do. That's how bad the country has been damaged. And to make matter worse is that they looted the taxation in the country, and the taxation would have helped pay civil servants. So South Sudan is one of those countries. There's no tax. Citizens are not being taxed, and if they were doing that, they're actually going after big corporation, even NGOs. They're being taxed, and then when those money come in or those funds come in, they're being mismanaged by the elites, and you really drain yourself as a government when those in charge of the taxation loot rather than managing it to help citizens. So at this moment, the country at a critical stage of being labeled as a failed nation, because there's no alternatives at the moment.
Yeah, generally, it is said that Africa has the world's youngest population. Maybe around 70 or 60% of them are at the age of 25, which means there is a youth population in most countries in Africa. So when we come to South Sudan in specific, from what I see, it seems like the youth are really fine with what is happening on the ground. There are no such as public protests against Kiir, and as we can tell from Tanzania, from Madagascar, and from other countries in Africa that are really under dictatorship, sometimes they do protest, like to express their their concern about the direction of the country. So, like, what is preventing the youth in South Sudan to do such kind of protest against Salva Kiir?
Yeah, this is a critical question that you just raised, and as we can see, there's many South Sudanese living in these countries that they're on the street, they're putting their life on the line. When you look at Kenya, we have thousands of South Sudanese living there, Uganda, Ethiopia, and all these other countries, East African countries. The main issue, especially for myself as an activist, and we have sat down and talked about this. What do we need to do for us to be on the street and bring a change? What will it take? First, the biggest thing that we found is that the country is divided. So if you're from Lake State, if you're and there's an issue going on in Lake State, somebody from Upper Nile might feel like that's not an issue that I don't need to involve myself. The same thing in Warab. We've seen a protest in northern Bargazal in Wow a couple of years ago when they went on the street. They met with live bullets and South Sudanese saw that, but nobody else was outraged. None of the other states was outraged and say, you know what, we're going to see what happened in Wow, and these are our people. So there's a lack of national identity. This is another big issue that is hurting us because the other nations around us, for example, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, they have a national identity, and that unite them, and that's their country and their flag. We don't have that in South Sudan, and that's something we've been urging the youth. We need to form a national identity, or else these elites will use this to their advantage. And still we're still struggling with tribals, loyalty to your clans, loyalty to your relatives. All of these things are preventing us in so many ways, and this is very disappointing. And I always say this: 3 to 4 years from now on, we're not going to be able to live in these neighbor countries because they're going to say to us, "What are you people waiting for? We died for our freedom. Why are you here? Go to your country and go fight for your freedom." I heard this many times, and for me, seeing my friend Bobby Wine on the street with the Ugandans,
Yeah.
it is such of a inspiration. But for any of us that would actually plan to do a demonstration, we would have to be on the ground, and that's the biggest thing. Because if we don't start it, who else gonna start it? And even though that we constantly receive death threats from the elites, such as if you go on the street, you're going to be met with live bullets, and which is true. But that's exactly what's happening in other countries that we're around. So I believe that these three things are preventing us: lack of national identity, tribal, and also a loyalty towards our clans, and not being able to be connected through our pain and suffering. Everybody's all these 10 states and 3 administrative areas are all speaking different painful pathways to their daily lives.
We know James Wane, he got served as vice president since independence, and he was demoted. Benjamin Bulmer also was elevated as the chosen successor, but dismissed within months. So Riek Machar is currently on trial. So the SPLM has become what one analyst called, maybe Dr. Remember Miamingi, he said that it's become, quote, a coalition of faction bounded by war, divided by rivalries, never resolved. And President Kiir is currently 73 years old. When he leaves power, whether in 10 years or 5 years or maybe tomorrow, who takes over and how? And does South Sudan have any other succession plan that does not require troops on the ground?
When we look at some of the dictators around our nation, such as Uganda, we can see the step that Museveni has already taken, grooming his son to be the next president of Uganda. We've seen similarities with President Salva Kiir. Some of his sons, he has promoted them to a higher position, and then now the only member of his family that is very promising is his daughter Adut, and she's very elegant, and she's winning. She's very persuasive in her speech, but she does have other things that South Sudanese know about her that make her more not trustworthy. But Selfa does have a plan when he leaves. Like I said, he's always 10 steps ahead of all of us. And as at the moment, James Wani is a great move for President Salva Kiir as a dictator, because Wani is a puppet. Wani will not be able to say, don't do this, all this. He just wants to be where he's at. And I believe that he's just surviving. So all of these reshuffling and presidential appointments, all of these are maneuvers for Kiir to buy more time, and so that he can finally groom someone within his own family. And I believe that President Salva Kiir wants someone, one of the immediate family, to be the next leader in South Sudan. But he's challenged by many opposition leaders, and that has been the only thing that has been slowing him down. But when we look at his health, it's still deteriorating. We don't know when or what could happen to him. But with him appointing James Wani, it's a great way for anybody from his family to take over. For example, if he reinstate Dr. Machar in that position, that's very risky, because Dr. Machar has a weight, and he'd be able to take over the country. So Kiir needs someone in there that's very soft target, as long as he can, until somebody else come from his household. So those are things that we're seeing at the moment, and where he's taking the nation.
So let's take a look at this in international complicity question. So the United Nations sanctioned Benjamin Bolmel, and when he was promoted to the position, they just watch as him become vice president. Then IGAD brokered a peace deal, a peace agreement that President Kiir currently is now violating with impunity. And the international community also issues its statement of concern. And then the next day, everything is go back as usual, business as usual. So is the international community, Western donors, regional powers, the United Nations actually enabling this system to engage with it? Or at what point do you say enough is enough and actually impose real consequences?
What has happened, and many of us are frustrated, and I've raised this in so many of the platforms that I've been at, that there's not real pressure to pressure suffer. What we have to look at is that the international community do have their own interests. They have things that they want to accomplish. But when you run into a country like South Sudan right now, it's one of those countries where the international community is like, okay, we'll issue a press statement as usual to make us relevant, and to make us seem engaged, but that's not exactly what's happening. There's no real pressure to President Salva Kiir at the moment, and I believe that the international community just trying to get by and see what's going to happen, and until somebody rise up that they can serve the same interests, and then they'll be able to put more pressure on President Salva Kiir. So I've seen many of the ambassadors have gone to Juba, have issued strong message, but at the end of the day, they go back and kind of just move away from it. But the real pressure will come from the people. So at the moment, there's a disengagement between the international community and the people. Has South Sudanese been able to be on the street, then the international community can say, okay, we can be able to back them up. But at the moment, the international community do not have something to work with, because they have to have something to work with. They don't know what could happen. Let's say if some of the United Nations peacekeepers had gone on to one of the states and defended or work against the government, they can easily be targeted, and they don't know which citizen to work with. All the citizens are all divided, so put them in a lot of confusion, and it's risky because South Sudan government is not afraid to harm international workers. As we can see, some of the humanitarian aids have been murdered, abducted. All of these things, the government is not afraid. So the international community are in a really tough situation because there's nothing to work with. They cannot work with the leaders. They cannot work with the people. It's just hard. They have to have someone to work with in order to bring a change. And this has been one of the biggest obstacle. Even some of the groups that we've been working with for many years on the South Sudan crisis have also closed their doors because they feel there's nothing changing and there's nothing for them. It's not worth it for them to risk their lives, risk their organization and their staffs to be in a place where they could lose everything that they work for.
Mhm. Ambassador to Riek Jikany, thank you so much. Right now, let me give you the floor to have a free opinion on what you think about South Sudan and its current situations.
Nobody's going to rescue us. We're going to be the one to rescue ourselves. We need to stop the victimization narrative and be able to be the South Sudan that we need. We need to have a history. I would love for us to be known and be on every social media feed that South Sudanese citizens are all together as one country and they're on the streets. We need to be on the street. We're a very violent country, of course, but we've tried war and it has not been working. That's one thing that President Salva Kiir and the elites, they know very well. Yes, it's a sacrifice. We're all going to have to sacrifice certain things, just like our neighbors are doing. They're on the street. They have families. They have loved ones. Some of them are moms and dad, and some are sons. The same thing with us. So as we move forward as South Sudanese, especially the youth, we have a large number. We got to be able to come together and challenge the regime. It cannot be just me and you or few numbers. It doesn't work like that when you go against a dictator. We need 10 states, 3 administrative areas. We need to be able to start this as soon as possible. If we don't, the president will be able to establish himself where it's going to take 40 to 50 years to remove such a regime. And that itself will not take us anywhere. And we're going to be continuing with the suffering that we have been going through for decades.
Ambassador Riek Jikany, this has been Africa Decode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Have a good day.